Hey everyone, this is Andrew at Plainview Farm. In today's video, we're going to pull some wire. But first, I'll show you my setup here. So as you can see here on the receiver hitch of the truck, I have two spools of wire. That's loud. I have two spools of wire. This is 14 gauge high tensile electric. I use 12.5 gauge on perimeter fences, but for interior fences, cross fences, 14 gauge is plenty. But I've got here, these are each 1/4 mile spools. And as I said, I've got a receiver hitch. This is just all thread run through a receiver hitch that didn't have a tow ball in it. The all thread is long enough that I'm able to stack two spools of wire on here, which allows me to pull two wires at a time. So I've got this ready to go. And then in the bed of the truck, here in the bed of the truck, I have two more rolls of wire. These are 1/2 mile spools. I have all of my insulators pre-made. One of the things I like to do whenever I'm planning to build fence is whenever I have a few minutes here or there, I'll put together my end insulators. I'll strap some wire to a bunch of them and get them ready, figure out how many of them exactly I'm going to need, and go ahead and get them ready. That way they're ready. It saves me a little bit of time whenever I actually get out into the field. Another time-saving tool that I use whenever I build fence is a story pole. The height of the wire is going to be, I believe this is, if I remember right, this is 18 and 34 inches, and then this is the height of where I want my line posts to be, which is 42 inches, I believe. Yeah, it's 42 inches. So I've also got, with these, I have my strainers ready to go as well. I've already got them wired in to the end insulators. Like I said, that way I can just grab a hold and pull off of these and be ready to go. I don't have to stand there and wire everything up. Now usually I prefer to use the strainers that have the hole in the end of them, so you can just slip them right over the wire, because that saves you a step of having to tie off a wire to the insulator. But the case that I bought, I picked up the wrong ones, so that's okay. It's not a big deal. Like I said, they just have to be tied through the hole there, instead of just slipping the wire straight through the hole at the back and then through the end of the strainer. But I also have a mineral tub, old mineral tub here, with all my gate handles, my hooks, you know, gate latches, all of that stuff, my big rubber hammer, all that stuff ready to go. And then I have my fiberglass rods that I'm going to be using for my line posts as well. And then in the event that I forgot anything, just my box of extra stuff. So it's all right there. So one of the things I like about high tensile electric is that it is really fast to build. It doesn't take much time at all. And you know, it's I think about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I should be able to get a lot of this done before dark. It'll be dark around, I don't know, 7 o'clock, 7:30 maybe, something like that today. So, which of course we're expecting some storms, but either way, I should be able to get the largest portion of this fencing system all built. So let's get to it. I guess I can start by grabbing the hammer, the story pole, and a couple of these dudes. A few fence steeples. Oh yeah, and I need to unhook this from the top of the spool. All right, I think I have everything I need. If not, I'll be back. I guess I'll come get you and take you down there so you can see what I'm doing. Oh, and before I forget, 12.5 gauge high tensile wire comes in a much larger spool, and you have to use a spinning jenny to, to unspool it, or else it'll shoot all over the place and make a big mess, and you don't want to do that. All right, so I've got my wires both down here. Now I'm going to use my story pole to figure out where I'm going to set, where I'm going to nail in my fence steeples there and there. I'll get these attached. Not going to hammer them in all the way because we will be pulling our wires through them. This right here is how we're going to make our connections, okay? So this has our termination insulator on the end of it. It also has our reel, our ratchet inside it, right here. So we'll make our first loop, bring it through, get it on the post here, and then basically all we're going to do is just tie this dude off. If you've seen other videos that I do, you know I don't use fancy knots or anything like that. That's not really my kind of thing. I just try to keep it simple. And actually, I've got another video that's a little bit more technical on how I build electric fence. I'll be sure to include a link to that in the description, and I'll post it at the end of this video as well. So anyway, we just tie these off very simply. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. There's not going to be a whole lot of tension on these wires. So we just need to wrap it, I don't know, 6 or 7 times is more than enough. And I clip off the excess and do the same at the bottom. Try to get them roughly the same distance. They don't have to be perfect, but roughly the same distance. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll make it 8 on this one, just to be different. And clip our wire, toss it over to the side there. Then the next thing we need to do, actually I've pulled too much wire this way, but that's okay. So the next thing we'll do is, again, make sure I've got the right wire, and we will run it through the hole in our inline strainer. What I like to do is pull it around, basically make a hook, and I've got it in there the wrong direction. It's okay, we just turn it around. So anyway, like I said, I just try to make a hook, and then we'll roll it up a few rounds just to get our wire started in the strainer. And there we go. That one's tight enough. Now I'll just repeat the step. Make sure I don't get my wires tangled up. Again, that is one thing. If you pull 2 of them at the same time, you take the potential, or you take the risk of getting your wires tangled into one another. That's why I try to spread them out if I can. If I'm paying attention to what I'm doing, I'll try to spread the wires out. It's like I said, hook our wire into our strainer, spin it around a couple times to get it started. Now, I use wrenches on these. I don't have one of the ratcheting strainer tighteners. I just use a wrench. This one right here takes a 15 millimeter, and so that's what I'll use. If I was really gonna crank down on these, I would probably get the ratcheting handle, but that's not really my cup of tea. So. And if I had been thinking right, we would have done the gate first. But that's all right, not a big deal. So now I'm gonna go back down to the other end, tie off the opposite end of the wires, and then drop the posts. I left my clips and everything down here. We'll work our way back that direction and try to, and hammer in all of our posts. Now, I'm the type that I hate to make the trip more times than I have to, going back and forth between posts. This first one, the first one's always, again, trying to get your bearings, especially if you don't do this all the time. There's going to be things that you forget, which I do. I build fence ever so often, and then, start to find my groove about halfway through the project. It's usually the way it goes. So, anyway. Okay, so as I said, we're just going to repeat the same step here, basically, as what we did before, but this time I'm just going to put my fence steeple on the back of the post instead of on the sides. I guess to save a steeple. Yeah, I'm that cheap. Do the same thing. I'm gonna tie it off. Five, 6, 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ish. Okay, I'm gonna pull on this wire, make sure we've got the right one. Yep, this is our top wire. Now, we're gonna pull and pull and pull and pull and pull until we try to get this wire at least get a good bit of the slack out of it. And we're gonna do the same thing as we did on right here. We're just on the wire holding our insulators in place. We're just gonna wrap it 6 or 8 times. Six, 7, 8. Pull our bottom wire the same way. Try to get as much slack out of it as we can. Meanwhile, we're going to stick that out of the way. Maybe it won't hit us in the face. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and one more just to be different again. Now I'm going to be honest with you, I can be somewhat inconsistent in my methods sometimes. Some things I like to be very precise, other things close enough is good. And whenever it comes to spacing line posts, generally close enough is good. I'm not going to get a tape measure and pull out and see, you know, exactly how far apart my line posts are spaced. I'm going to step them off. I'm going to take 10 paces between each post, and that's just going to be good enough. So here we go. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I'm even gonna just kind of jam it in the ground like that, so I get a general idea of where it's supposed to be. 10 in the ground. All right, so I've got all of my line posts spaced out. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put some tension on our strainers here, and that should pull our wire nice and tightish, and let us know exactly where we need to set our posts up against the fence. Again, we tighten the wire up first, then we set our posts, which, like I said, these are just 3/8 inch fiberglass rods. We're gonna hammer them into the ground with that rubber hammer, a little plastic cap on the top of them. Gonna hammer them in about 6 inches deep. That's about all they need to be. That'll be plenty. So, and here we are, 15mm wrench. It's not anything too earth-shattering here. All right, I think that wire is fairly tight. Give it a few more cranks and we'll hit the bottom one. All right, both wires are fairly tight. So over time, our connections here, they will tighten up on one another. So it'll just be important for me to come back later and make sure that everything is still good and tight. Of course, you don't want to over tighten it, because if you do, instead of pulling down tight against the post, what will happen is these will begin to unravel. But like I said, I'm not planning to over tighten this. This just has to basically, you know, keep the animals where I want them. Okay, so these little dudes right here are my post clips. They're pretty simple. You just squeeze them and they go over the top of the post, and the wire rests in this little opening here. It does give it a little bit of room to move back and forth. But first, we need to take our cap, put it on top of our post, and hammer it into the ground to the appropriate depth. So once again, that's what my story stick or story post or pole, whatever you want to call it, is right here. That is its job. It's to make sure we get the appropriate depth. We'll get this started. Oh, look at that. Couldn't have done that better myself. You know, if I hadn't been doing it myself. So, there we go. Line post is in. That simple. And I'll tell you this, if you've ever used these before and you've left one in the ground for very long at all, and the ground is able to dry out and then get moist and dry out again, these can be very difficult to pull back out of the ground without breaking them off. So, again, that's why we go 6 inches to make sure that they're firm, but also why we don't go any more than 6 inches, because in the event that I want to get them out of here, I want to be able to get them out of here. Okay, so of course, bottom wire has to be first. We squeeze this together, get to slide down over the post, down to the first black line there on our story stick, and the second line. So bring our top wire up. Hopefully we can get it in here. I think somebody may have over-tightened this. There we go. There we go. Wire's in place. Okay, so let me go ahead and mention this as well. Another reason that I use 14 gauge wire instead of 12.5 is because 12.5 is pretty heavy. 14 gauge isn't nearly as heavy. I mean, it's still, you know, it can be heavy as well, but it's not nearly as heavy. So these posts and these clips, they should support this wire without too much trouble. And again, if an animal were to hit this wire, it's going to bounce, it's going to flex. That's what we want. We want high tensile electric. We want it to be able to move if an animal hits it and then spring back into position. Now, in the event that these fiberglass rods do not work as well as I hope they will, I am not going to go buy a bunch of T-posts, and I am not going to buy a bunch of timeless posts either. I just can't force myself to pay, you know, $5, $6, $7 a post. Just can't do it. I guess what I could do is go buy some 1/2-inch rebar or something like that. Use the little screw-on insulators, but I'm pretty sure this is going to work okay for what I'm doing anyway. Of course, I can hear my wife saying, "What do you mean if it doesn't work?" Now, these don't have to be exactly the same height across the posts. You know, in some instances, you probably want to, you know, just if it's hitting the post at a certain height and it looks good, you know, your spacing is right, that kind of thing, then generally what I'll do is I'll just leave it there. And also, if I get into a low spot or anything like that, high spot, whatever, where I need to do something different, I have a whole bunch of T-posts, and, you know, I'll use them to basically anchor as anchor posts if I need them. You know, in all reality, I probably could have spaced these posts out a little bit further, but again, as I was saying, with the size of these posts, and just being these fiberglass posts, it's probably best that I spaced them what I did, which they are roughly 30 feet. Like I said, 10 paces for me, it's roughly 30 feet. So I'm going to end this video right here. We'll call this part 1 of our high tensile electric fence project. Be sure to tune in for the next video, be watching for the next video where I will show you how I install my gate handles, hangers, connectors, that kinds of thing, and a few other little odds and ends out there. So as always, I appreciate you watching. If you found this video to be useful, I sure hope you would do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you have not yet subscribed to our channel, please consider doing so and hit that subscribe button down at the bottom of the screen. Again, I appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time.